Hey folks, check this out. My bond with these local squirrels is getting closer than ever. This fella's coming over for a little afternoon snack. Check this out. Look how much we trust each other now. You see that? I don't know if anyone was in the stream yet for that, but that was another special moment. I've been cataloging a bunch of those. We got lucky timing on that one right there. But I've also just been bringing my camera and some nuts with me when I check on the classroom some mornings and afternoons these days, because a few times a day I will feed them one of these nuts. There's a few different squirrels. I'm not sure which ones are getting which, but they bring them away to stash them in any case, and they can only carry one at a time. You can't even offer them two because maybe they'll come back for the second one, but they have to put one in their mouth and run off with it. Now, normally I was trying to put little clips of the squirrel footage here and there in random episodes or just show it in streams and stuff, but it's gotten so good that I think we will be able to continue luring the squirrels onto the desk, befriending them further and further, and building up an episode at some point about how to befriend your local wildlife, such as squirrels, safely and humanely. And so the footage I'm getting of squirrels now, I did post a little bit for my Patreon supporters, but even better has happened since I posted that today. So some of it will be secret squirrel footage that I'm slowly collecting that will at some point this grade show up within some squirrel-themed episode. And if anyone missed that, you might want to briefly jump back to the beginning to see a good squirrel moment that launched off our stream. Anyway, this stream is on an alliterative sounding day, like I put in the current title. It is Saturday, September 2nd. And that right there is a lot of S's, especially on a stream on a Saturday, September 2nd. So, salutations to all of these silly souls and all the other S's. And that can be fun, and I looked at which holidays happened to strike on this alliterative day, and it happened to have a calendarish one. When I looked it up, I saw, Calendar Adjustment Day, observed on September 2nd since 1752? Apparently, although some Catholic countries such as Spain, Portugal, Poland, and Italy adopted the Gregorian calendar, some Protestant countries used the Julian calendar. And the Julian calendar was rather inaccurate, not properly calculating the time it takes the Earth to orbit once around the sun. Had a leap year every 4 years, which is too often. I don't know if you know about how we skip leap years, and there's a pretty elaborate system of when leap years are skipped or not. I did do a calendar-themed episode at some point in grade -1 about a pretty cool calendar that would have 13 months, each of which would have a Friday the 13th. So I'm still sticking with the international fixed calendar being better, but while we're stuck in this calendar, we might as well appreciate things like a random alliterative day or the fact that it lands on a holiday. Now, I suppose they may have even put it on September 2nd. I wonder if the alliteration had anything to do with why that was the case. To make it in sync, probably not, but could be. I would have to read more into it to check on that. In any case, a Saturday, September 2nd will only occur approximately 1 out of 7 years. Because, and not exactly in a row because leap years are weird and stuff, but about once every 7 years, it'll be a Saturday. Speaking of which, yesterday was a Friday, was the first day of the month. I always check which day the first day of the month is, because if and only if the first day was a Sunday, which it wasn't this month, there would be a Friday the 13th. A fun, sort of spooky in a comical way sort of day. Friday the 13th can be a good one to celebrate when it happens to strike, and we would have 13 of them per year if we went to the international fixed calendar. So, that's something maybe we'll return to in the future with some of our own other calendar proposals that could be even better. And we'll also maybe look at other ways cycles could be worked in, like the moon, because all the calendars we talked about and the ones here are typically based on rotations between the Earth and the Sun. And although a month is somewhat near the amount of a moon cycle, it's not fully based in it or tied to it correctly. So perhaps there's other ways to look at it involving the moon as well. And the squirrel's coming back. I don't know how much is going to be overfeeding this squirrel, but he's coming back and he wants another nut. I brought one more, so I'm going to give it one more nut, and then that will be all it gets for a minute, and then it'll have to chill on the snacks. All right, you want another one? Here. Here, buddy. That's pretty wild, huh? We have grown quite a trust. And we're only going to take it further. I've seen it on the desk once. It jumped right off when it saw me coming. But I'll get it stuck on the desk at some point, chilling here. And we're going to try and build a miniature desk on the desk for the squirrel. Maybe we will even take it steps further and give it a miniature desk on its mini desk. A mini desk where it has, say, a pet worm or something. Maybe the pet worm has a pet ant. How far can we take this? So, in any case, somebody said next month starts on Sunday. Well, that'll be cool then. We'll have to celebrate a Friday the 13th in some form. Now, today, on this nice random afternoon, I wanted to not just talk about a random alliterative calendar thing. That's not our main topic. I wanted to follow up on a few topics that happened. Don't worry if you've seen it yet or not, but hopefully you have, but don't worry if you have. In the last combo class episode, I put out a day or two ago, a little under 2 days, which was the longest episode of grade -2 so far on the combo class channel, not this channel. And that was one I spent a long time on and had a lot of fun making. It has blackberries, magic cards, arbitrarily large progressions of numbers. And we're going to chat a little bit about some of those progressions of numbers, as well as possibly some of the magic card stuff, and some other random extensions to those concepts, because even though it was a 25-minute episode, sometimes I have more thoughts that tumble offward the pages of my brainstorms and don't fit in the main episode always, and we have to bust them out in something like a live stream. Somebody's asked if I've tried the Hindu calendar, and I don't remember exactly which one that lined up with. I'll have to look into that sometime. So sometime I'll check out the Hindu calendar for sure. And for now, I want to look at a little bit about arithmetic progressions. And let me see if I have a marker around here. These are not dry erase. Okay, where's a marker? Okay, I got all these non-dry erase. Let's see, let me grab a marker real quick. Alright, sorry, I just had them indoors. Somehow I run low on these markers. I'm so good at preserving most classroom supplies and using them well. Except the markers, I always leave the caps off. Oh, the squirrel's back, but I can't just keep giving you nuts. I don't know if it's just stashing them for later or what, but you're not supposed to just feed it walnuts all day. You need to eat some vegetables. We looked up the other stream what vegetables might work for you. What about a piece of fruit? Okay. You're going to get a different sort of treat because it'll still help for a balanced diet, okay? We're going to try feeding this guy a piece of fruit. I'm a little scared to do that out of my hand. I'm still a little nervous when it eats right out of my hand that it'll bite me, but I'm getting more comfortable. But come back. We're going to give it a little chunk of fruit if it wants because it actually here has a secret stash I saw. Squirrel. Well, I'll leave that there. I'll have my eye on it, ready for if we need to pan the camera back there. Little fruit for the squirrel who may come back. Give it a more balanced diet. And check out this fruit. It's one of those pluot things. Or called plumcot, depending on which source you look at. We'll unravel that conspiracy someday. And they come in all sorts of weird colors. This one is like a greenish red mottled color, and the inside is bright red. Alright, so what is an arbitrary progression? I was saying I'm not great at these markers. I'm accidentally bad at leaving the caps off. Everything else with the classroom I'm good at remembering, except leaving the markers caps off. But here, an arithmetic progression is like when you got a bunch of evenly spaced out things, like say these are the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the reason we say arithmetic instead of geometric or other things is that you could have other evenly spacednesses like multiplicative. So like the powers of 3 going up from the number 1, 3, 9, etc. are a geometric progression. But if we just have like even hops apart, it's an arithmetic progression. And all of those can be written as the starting number plus hop distance times n for n values ranging from 0 to 1 less than the amount you're including. Sort of like a base does, where you go from 0 to n minus 1. Now, we discussed arithmetic progressions of prime numbers in that episode. I don't know if I properly linked it in the description yet, but if you go to the combo class channel, it is there, a new episode that discusses the prime number parts. But it's also just interesting to ponder. What sorts of numbers might be able to have different lengths of these? And one of the main things I wanted to get across in the episode isn't like that this is what the prime numbers do. There were some fun facts about that there, but more so that there are more options for what things can do than people always realize. You might assume that our options are, it could be finite in length and have a maximum, or that it could be infinite in length. But there's also an in-between of sorts where it could be arbitrarily large in length beyond any finite cap you could pick, but still always finite and can't have an infinite one. Now, in some realms, infinity and arbitrarily large are sort of squashed together, or one of them doesn't have room to exist. But here, both of them are possible. Like, if I continue this forever and don't care what trait the number has, just that it fits this, well, I could make this infinitely long. But the primes we saw don't fit infinity quite there. They fit closer to these arbitrarily large ideas. And one of the important theorems that I mentioned there is this one. I'll pull up just the Wikipedia for now, just to show one fun thing about Wikipedia is how it's not that dense for this. This isn't the greatest place to read about this. However, it is a good maze. Wikipedia, with all its hyperlinks and a little rabbit hole of different topics, shows you what else you might want to look at next from here. The green tau theorem, Well, maybe I'm curious about arithmetic progressions of primes, has an article. Maybe I'm curious about the Hardy-Littlewood conjecture that's related, or these see also ones. For example, a see also here that we didn't mention is that the reciprocals of some sorts of numbers diverge. And it's like if you add up the reciprocals of the primes, it diverges, meaning it will pass any finite size. It approaches infinity, and it can reach an arbitrarily large size. And there, if it diverges, they have found typically that within the type of number that we're looking at the reciprocals of, there will be an arbitrarily long arithmetic progression. And this hasn't been proven, but it was conjectured by Erdős, this mathematician I have mentioned many times, who's a classic. I love this guy, and we still need to talk about his crazy life sometime. But it's an interesting, simple-ish conjecture, asking whether any set of numbers that the reciprocals diverge, which must be an infinite set of numbers, but not all infinite sets of numbers do that, because if I only add up the reciprocals of the powers of 2, it's like 1/2 plus 4th plus an 8th does not get to infinity. Now, it's an interesting question that this conjecture is still open, has various work on it, whether there will be a one-to-one correlation of the types that their reciprocals diverge and that there's infinitely long arithmetic progressions, or whether there's any exceptions, that is, just one of those and not the other. Now, looking back at the other fun ones, Dirichlet's theorem relates this to modular arithmetic in a way, which is saying that if I take an arithmetic progression of sorts, imagine it like a clock now, where it's like these are the numbers that are pre-Threven, which means the numbers that are congruent to 2 in mod 3. Well, there will be an infinite amount of those, not necessarily all even hops, but among the even hops, there will be spread out an infinite amount of prime numbers. And that's true for a wide range of congruence values to different moduli. And so we will do Dirichlet's theorem at some point, and this is one of the ones that we will be explaining using clocks. Because clocks are a great tool to demonstrate modular arithmetic, so good thing I have 30 or 40. Now, these are just a few other things that some people may be interested in looking into. One other note that I wanted to add here is this is quite interesting. When we get to this thing called Gaussian primes, maybe I'll have to mention this. I haven't explained Gaussian primes yet, just Gaussian integers, but some of you could maybe deduce what that might entail, or you can wait and see when we'll do a full episode about them. But it looks like Terence Tao proved a version of this for those as well. So that's pretty neat. This guy, Terence Tao, is a top-notch mathematician, super brilliant. Some consider him, and I would say I don't know enough about the topic to disagree otherwise, and it seems possible and logical to say this, that it could be fair to consider him the greatest living mathematician in some ways. Because a lot of the really, really great mathematicians were in earlier eras, no longer around. This guy's achieved a lot in his 40 or 50 years. And also shout out to Ben Green, who also has done a lot of cool stuff related to primes and other things. So, a lot of fun things go on within the primes, within arithmetic progressions, and it does turn out that we can find arithmetic progressions of primes that are as long as we want them to be. Here's an example where this is the first known case of 25 primes in arithmetic progression, meaning evenly hopped, which is this number plus something here. This is related to primorials, I guess. They're saying 23 primorial. That's because these things called primorials, where you multiply all the primes up through something, are very important in this sort of thing. They show up all over. Things are multiples of primorials. So here they're using a different notation, but this is one way of writing that. An arithmetic progression of 25 values, counted from 0 to 1 less than the amount, sort of like a base, and they're all prime. So that's pretty neat. That one was just found 2008. This one, the first case of 27 known primes, was found in just 2019, just a couple of years ago. So that is a few notes on that right there. I need to run inside to grab a thing or two for a next upcoming demonstration I want to do. So I'll be back in just a minute or two, and then we're going to talk about some other fun topics. For now, I'll leave this on here just for people to think about what does it mean to what happened in their proof. We'll take a look at their proof real quick when I'm back in a moment. And this right here shows us, these are the overview of what goes on in the very long proof. This also says that there's a modern exposition, meaning they have shortened the proof or simplified it in ways. Some proofs are hard to do that. There's been difficulty doing that to things like Fermat's last theorem to a major degree. But here there are simplified versions. But we'll take a peek at the original and maybe the simplified one. I do need to run inside just to use the bathroom, grab some water, and get a prop to show you guys. But I'll be back momentarily, and leave a comment if you have any guesses of what crazy stuff might come in this proof. All right, see you in a sec. The squirrel was out there in the front yard. It just hangs around these days. It loves our yard now. All right, so I'm back. One thing I brought right here that I want to show you folks real quick to make sure I don't forget. Oh, also, check this out. This is something new. Traffic cone, or we won't call it a traffic cone. We'll just call it a rare cone that somehow appeared in the classroom. Now, something I want to show you folks real quick is the Venus flytrap I showed before. This thing has expanded to crazy degrees of eating. It's growing new mouths, so it must be doing somewhat healthy, but some of the mouths have died because it has tried to eat the biggest flies ever. I didn't know there was this many big flies around, but apparently all the flies in the neighborhood are drawn to this smell of the Venus flytrap or whatever. It lures them real good. And look at these mouths and how many different flies it's caught. So some are closed, but some are open because it has trouble even chomping down on the thing. So pretty much everyone has a massive fly. So that's pretty neat. There's one or two that don't have a fly, so maybe they will catch their flies out here. I think some of those hover flies that were those creepy worm-like things that were in the pond before did birth hover flies, but those are not the worst bug in the world. Now, some things, oh shoot, when I was getting the fly trap, I forgot to get one other thing, but it's okay because, hi. I gave you a piece of fruit over there. Check it out. It's some fruit. You don't want the fruit? We gotta chill on the nuts, man. I've given you a few nuts already today. Try and eat some fruit. It'll be good for your diet. It's not a nut. You're gonna be disappointed. It's a piece of fruit. You don't want the fruit? Oh, you want the nut so bad? I don't even have a nut with me anymore. I fed you all the nuts I have. They're inside. I can't get you more and more nuts all day, dude. He really wants some more. And he's just hanging out. Well, I'm sorry. All you're going to get right now is some fruit. So, you're just going to... Oh, I don't know. I feel kind of bad. Oh, but I can't give him just... If I get him another nut, what if he just comes back and just keeps coming for more and more nuts? Well, okay, in case you're stashing them for your family... okay. I'll grab him one last nut that's over here. The final nut, man. Are you still here? Oh, did he leave? No, he's here. Oh, he went behind the camera, though. He's over there. Okay. Can you come to the table? Here. Maybe you got to come to the table for the nut this time. Here. Come to the table. I've seen it get up on here. It can get here somehow. You want a little bridge? Here, look. It's a bridge to the nut. Here, jump over here. Jump here. Get it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, we have ascended a new level of befriending the squirrels. We've gotten one to jump on the desk to get a nut. Now they know that that's a good option, and they're ready to go for it. They know it's safe. We might start doing more of the nuts on the desk to get them more comfortable here. So that's pretty fun. Anyway, that is, I want to say unexpected, but I guess I should have been expecting it because the squirrel has been coming all over the last few filming sessions. It's like all of a sudden in grade -2, the squirrels are far more friendly, and I think the old ones that are shyer are still around, and they're older ones that have seen more hardships of the world and been in the street and stuff. But these younger ones must have been born in some season where grade -2, the squirrels are going way wilder than they were in grade -1. Now, didn't want that piece of fruit, so we're going to have to look up more types of things that they may like, because we can't give them nuts all day. We got to mix in some vegetables to their diet, apparently, can be healthy, so we're going to get some fresh vegetables and force the squirrel to try and eat it, try and unacclimate it from a nut-only diet. So, and yeah, I don't even know how many there are. There's definitely at least 2 small ones and at least 1 bigger one, and probably more than just 3. I think they may live in like the redwood tree over there. Where do squirrels nest? Do squirrels nest in trees? Do squirrels nest in trees? Squirrels build nests. Gray squirrels might. Could be a den or in a tree. I think that they might have a nest in like these redwood trees that are in a neighbor's yard, pretty close to here, basically a neighbor. And so that's pretty cool. I'm glad we got a little squirrel interlude. Like I said, first of all, that's got to be the last nut for it. We got to cut me off because it feels good to give the squirrel the nuts, but feel like I'm going to be giving it too many at some point. It's not going to have room to stash them, and it's just going to eat them all or something. But we will be ready for it to pop its head back probably and say hi again. And I have been collecting a bunch of squirrel footage that I'm not going to show anywhere, although I put some of it up on Patreon. That will be an episode someday. So at some point in grade -2, we will build up to an episode where we've gathered some factual information as well as all the wild clips about that sort of thing. Now, in any case, looking at some other thoughts here, one of the things that I wanted to also follow up on the episode possibly is the episode diverged on a long tangent into the game called Magic the Gathering. And I'm not going to go on to a crazy long tangent on it today right now. But I did want to note a few extra fun notes. One of which is I mentioned a few combos, which are when you have a few pieces or cards that interact in a certain way. And there's multiple layers of misconception about how players use infinity and stuff in that. So many layers of misconception. I know not every player has these misconceptions, but a surprising amount seem to, if you look up infinite combos online and stuff like that and see which type they're actually describing typically. And there's a lot of other fun ones that I might do a stream sometime where we just go through different infinite combos. And I also want to note that it reminded me of a different concept. I forget if I've mentioned this in a stream before, but a perpetual motion machine is an interesting thing in physics that it's impossible, because the goal of a perpetual motion machine would be to go a little past perpetual by setting up some little turbine, and then even after that it can still go around, meaning something that can get back where it started with the same amount of momentum and speed so that it would continue it forever. Really, when you have something without using a battery or something that goes down and goes up, it's not going to be able to continue that same loop indefinitely, because we can't invent a perpetual motion machine. And it hasn't necessarily been proven impossible, but seems, at least under the current framework of what humans could achieve, it's not one of the likely things to be invented soon. And a goal of that would be, if you had a perpetual motion one, that's sort of the limit. You could go pretty close to it, but not quite there. if you could go there, theoretically you could go an inch past it, if the limit was pushed further. And an inch past it, we would be generating free energy. And that's actually what some of those infinite combos reminded me of. And I wonder how that applies in other games as well. Because when you have a loop of cards, typically they use some resource, like it takes an amount of life or tapping a card or mana or things like that. But sometimes when you get the combo, you hit a state of perpetual motion or a little beyond perpetual motion. And once you get a little past perpetual motion, although even a perpetual motion one, which was sort of like one of the combos I mentioned, is the hint of a combo, and you could build that into the rest of the combo easily. So that was just an interesting thought that occurred to me, how reminds me of little equation-like versions of that, like an equation that things have certain things you need to feed them as costs, certain states they end up in. And if you can end up in the same state you started with something extra, but your original things all there the same, well, that wouldn't work in our typical sort of equations because you want it to be equal. In a way, the way we use equations, they're always exactly perpetual motion in a surreal way. But with those types of machines, maybe we'll look at those someday. Maybe we will be the first to build a perpetual motion machine. Highly unlikely, but it just happened to remind me of those combos. And maybe we'll look into other games that happen to tap into infinite-like things. So if any of you have any games you enjoy, feel free to think if you can, find any examples that something seems infinite or endless in it, and then think twice as to whether it's infinite or arbitrarily large. And if that doesn't fully make sense to any of you, you can watch the episode I made explaining this whole concept in a weird journey that was put on the Combo Class episode, or Combo Class channel a day or two ago. Now, let me take a peek at our comments. Somebody said, don't feed the squirrels. And it is okay to feed these squirrels because they already are just eating random plants from the neighborhood and stuff, as long as we feed them healthy, which is why we're not going to overfeed them nuts, but an unsalted shelled nut is actually very good for them of this sort. Now, hello and welcome to everyone else leaving random cool comments. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be a very long stream, because I am going to be filming with my main camera guy, Carlo, starting in not too long from now. So we're going to do a bit more chatting, one or two more little topics. But before too long, I am going to have to wrap up to start filming a few more shorts that I've been starting to refilm a bunch of shorts. I mean, not refilm as in old ones, but I mean get back into the process of filming a bunch of the ones I've written down as ideas. Because I normally go into filming horizontal, so I have to sort of snap my mind into, oh yeah, once in a while I'll film a few that are this way, which isn't normal. And usually you can't turn the footage that's this way into a short without making it look pretty bad, unless you get really lucky on where it's all placed and stuff. Now, we're not only going to film that, but we will start more footage of the next few Combo Class episodes. We'll see what topics are next. I'm not going to spoil them, but we are at the middle third of grade -2, and I'm getting to, a good groove of having a lot of fun with experimenting with certain topics that have been on my brainstorm list a while, and I've finally cooked them to the point they are ready to put out in the form I want them. So we'll have a lot more fun topics coming up, as well as occasionally some more random ones, like when the squirrel episode is ready to culminate together. And to the fans of Magic cards, for the ones who liked that part of it, first of all, let me know if you know a lot about the game, because I do have some puzzles mathematically I'm working on that I would like to ask some people about. Secondly, if you enjoyed that, don't worry, because at some point there will be another episode about Magic, which is a few episodes I have brainstormed ideas for that I'm not going to rush them out, because although I had some fun researching a bunch of stuff for the game that didn't fit in that episode, a bunch of other parts of the game theory, I'm not going to do it as the majority of what's going on here. So I'm sure pretty soon I'll forget about it for another few years or something. But there will be one or two more episodes about it spread out from this one. That one, for example, will relate to... I've been researching my opinions on the most powerful and least powerful cards that have ever been printed. The most powerful ones being an interesting experiment and study in game design and what makes a card powerful, and the least powerful ones being sort of funny in a way, analyzing ones that are comically bad and we have to explain ways in which it's almost impossible to make them good. But there are a lot of other fun games that, of course, I'll get sidetracked to as well. Somebody has mentioned chess, or not in this stream, maybe in the comments to that, as far as them having infinite sort of setups that you can imagine looping as well, theoretically. And we will analyze chess theory at some point as well. That's another game I used to like as a kid and haven't played in a long time, and we'll probably get back into geeking out about it for a month at some point as well. Somebody asked how you define infinity. And that really depends, because infinity can be used just to mean a process goes forever. Like the limit toward infinity means what does it culminate toward if it goes indefinitely? Sometimes infinity can be used like a number, but then sometimes they use like aleph naught and aleph one and terminology for different sorts of infinity. So I would say that it's vague enough, and it's a powerful, vague enough word that you sort of have to clarify if you are using it in the philosophical way to mean something endless, or if you are using it in a slightly more precise way, and if so, which precise way? Because there's a lot of different ways infinity could come up. I think that it's a very important concept in reality, and not only as a number-like thing, but as, say, the relationship between dimensions. Like there are infinite cross-sections of one dimension in the next. Infinite slices of a spherical thing that you could make as circles. And infinite lines you could slice in one of those. And infinite points you could slice in one of those. And these are slices of something as well. This is like a snapshot of something that got eaten in time, but stretched through if the fourth dimension's time, which is a whole nother story, the degree to which that may or may not be accurate to say. There will be ones that talk about time. It is also a vague concept like infinity, where again, time could just mean this thing that's going on that we exist within in a philosophical sense, or it could mean, very precise measurements of certain sorts of things. So you have to, sometimes with these big scale words, maybe it'd be better even if we had more words to split them up for different types. But for now, you just sort of got to clarify, like, am I using time? Am I using infinity? Things like that in the looser sense, like maybe useful in conversations and philosophy, or in the stricter sense. And if so, which of the stricter senses? Somebody asked if I'd say the number of grains of sand on a beach is infinite. I wouldn't, but I would say how many grains of sand could be on a hypothetical beach in a universe that could have more and more grains of sand. Like imagine there are pretty much endless beaches. Well, maybe we would say a beach itself can't have an infinite amount. It needs an amount of grains of sand. But maybe we could say in some universe, or in the continuum of possible universes, the amount of grains of sand a beach could have is up to an arbitrarily large amount. Not that that's necessarily true in our physics, we don't know, but in, the hypothetical continuum of beaches. Of course, you could also stretch that and say maybe a beach could be infinite. And then you would say something like, well, the amount of finite things would be like the amount of grains of sand you could put in any container, or unless you say the container can be infinite. There's a lot of ways to define things like this. Trying to define infinity and juggle the different types of infinity is one of the bigger quests and mysteries of life. Now, those are some great comments, and unfortunately, I do have to log off pretty soon because I realized I started this stream on the later end of my morning, and Carlo, my main camera guy, will be coming soon, and we're going to be filming some more fun things. But I do want to look back at that rare squirrel footage that happened a few times. If anyone popped near the end of the stream, click back through some earlier parts, because the beginning and the middle had some fun squirrel moments here, and some random topics and stuff. Make sure you've also seen on the Combo Class channel that new episode. That's one of my favorites I've made on there. I had a lot of fun making that one. And a lot more fun stuff will be coming, including non-live stream, other forms of edited content on this channel too, which I'm even working on last night and today. I did also put up something new for my Patreon people, thanks to those people, whose names are also in the description. And I think I should prepare for whatever weird scenes I will get up to in today's filming. It's going to be back to, you know, our usual mix of numbers and chaos and nature and etc. So, hope to see you all again in the next ones or in the past ones that you click around and find, because there's been a billion of these live streams that are still saved on the live tab. Hope you all have a marvelous day. And I will be back with that edited content before long at all. Until then, I better keep my phone near me in case the squirrels come back and do anything else funny. But I think I've fed them enough nuts for today. If they come back, I'll try and feed them a vegetable.